violence and other kind of violence.
Get away! I could be at work, at school, in my car, I can still get shot by the police. I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.
What's good, cyberspace? It's the Black Gen Z Mindset. Make sure you go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe, and let's get into the video. All right, guys, so I did want to bring you guys this story straight from Memphis. Pretty disturbing. Obviously, demon time activity going on in Memphis as this woman was charged with deleting an individual because she said it was time to feed her demons. So obviously this woman was not only fighting demons in her head, but she was feeding them so that they could grow larger and become full-blown super gremlins on demon time. So let's get into the article. Memphis police arrested a woman accused of killing a man who was found dead in a vacant home. So it looks like she, I don't know, maybe had targeted a homeless guy. Police were called to a home on Gruber Drive on September 23rd, where they found Terry Massey dead. His death was ruled a homicide. Investigators were told a woman named Shine had admitted to the murder. Days later, that witness told police that Shine described killing Massey with a knife, and she told the woman it was time to feed her demons. Shapria Williams was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, burglary of a vehicle, and theft of property.
Cleotha Henderson was only 11 years old when he was arrested for the first time, according to those court records. I learned he was regularly in and out of serious trouble as a juvenile, which ended when he was tried as an adult at 16 years old when he kidnapped a Memphis defense attorney at gunpoint. Cleotha Henderson's first brush with the law was in June of '95 when he was charged with theft at just 11 years old. His juvenile court records show he was part of the gang LMG, which...
LMG. So this is the guy who deleted the billionaire heiress. And guys, you can go back and watch that video. It has been demonetized on YouTube, but I still left it up because... you know, it is what it is. Most of my videos get demonetized anyway, so there's no point in taking them down. I am working to transition them to other platforms. Obviously, Rumble automatically uploads the videos once they are uploaded to YouTube. But I am also working to get them on Patreon. It's a little bit more difficult trying to integrate the APIs, but I haven't figured out how to do so yet. So I don't have to manually upload every video to Patreon, but maybe that's what it's going to start looking like because YouTube obviously does not want your boy Genquavius to eat on this platform. So we have to go to other measures in order to do so. But I'm still going to bring the message as much as I can. Any donations would help, but the least that you could do is like the video, share the content, subscribe, whatever you got to do to get the message out. That's more important. But this is the guy who deleted the billionaire heiress while she was on a jog, and then he was seen cleaning his vehicle afterwards. And obviously an extensive criminal record. He probably shouldn't have been out on the street, you know, just because of the things that he had done in his youth. But you know, thanks to the criminal justice reform, he was back out on the streets, gracing the community of Memphis's presence and taking out a glider woman as he is sent back into prison.
Stands for the Lemoyne Garden Gangsters, and that between October '95 and June 2000, Henderson was detained at least 16 times for charges ranging from unlawful possession of a weapon to rape.
And this was between the 90s and the early 2000s. What happened to 3 strikes, you're out? My man got 16 strikes. He's still at bat. And the serious charges that he had, grape, I mean, Sheesh, that man, and he was like, obviously he had a history of assault in a sexual nature, and he wasn't stopping, bro. He was not stopping. At some point, you have to understand that, yo, this guy can't be rehabilitated. He's broken forever and does not deserve to be in our society. He should be X'd out, you know, permanently.
Court records show Abstin was convicted on the rape charge. His victim, a male, was asked to testify in court, but details weren't available in the...
Wow, this man straight took a... He graped a man, bruh. Wow, man. I mean, you can only imagine, like, how much horror that woman was going through. If this man is out here graping men, I mean, that's gotta be a very difficult feat to overcome, right? So imagine just like what Shorty went through. It's crazy, man. It's a horrible thing. Like I said, dude should get the firing squad, but we'll see what happens. I think he just got life sentences, but I don't know if Tennessee has death penalty. Oh, man. It's wild out here in these streets. You got to be careful.
The record. Abstin was also placed in the custody of the Shelby County Youth Services Bureau multiple times. 2 weeks after a 6-month stay with Youth Services on a weapons charge, Abstin kidnapped defense attorney Kemper Durand and forced him to withdraw money at a MAPCO. Durand screamed for help and was able to escape. Abstin, who was just 16 at the time, was tried as an adult and sentenced to 24 years in prison with a mandatory minimum of 85%.
Wow.
Abstin asked the court for an early release in 2009, citing ineffective counsel. But Durand wrote a victim impact statement saying he felt extremely lucky to have escaped and that Abstin felt absolutely no remorse for the crime after he...
I told you these super gremlins don't feel bad, you know, for catching bodies or doing anything to anybody, especially gliders. Like, that's when, I mean, you might get some remorse if they did something to, you know, they homie, like they X'd out they homie. Like, I don't know, YNW Melly might be feeling remorse right now, but I mean, if it was a glider, you could forget it. You can forget it.
Refused to plead guilty even though he had confessed. Durand died in 2013, and his surviving family members did not want to formally comment on the new charges against Abstin. Though one family member did tell Action News 5 they are deeply saddened by what happened to Mrs. Fletcher, who by all accounts seemed to have been a kind, caring, vibrant, and giving woman, mother, and teacher. Abstin served 20 years of his 24-year sentence for the Durand kidnapping. That's 85% of the term, before he was released from Trousdale Turner Correctional Facility in November 2020. Tennessee Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally tweeted today that had Abstin served his full sentence, Eliza Fletcher would still be alive.
I mean, she might still be alive, but if he just served 4 more years, he probably would have X'd somebody else out when he got out. So if it wasn't going to be her, it was going to be somebody else. And that's just how these super gremlins operate. So, you know, yes, her life may have been spared, but I mean, if she did that routine, if that was her routine to jog through that area on the same days and all that kind of stuff, it probably would have just, it was probably something that was inevitable. She might have had 4 more years to live. But if that was her routine where she was jogging on that strip or whatever, then he probably would have just got her 4 years later. So we don't know that, but you know, I get it though.
Could he have served longer? Sure, of course.
But newly elected District Attorney General Steve Mulroy says overall he'd rather see the rehabilitation of prisoners over longer sentences.
I think to a large extent we've given up on using prisons to rehabilitate. And the shame of it is that if we were to take rehabilitation seriously, we would actually reduce the repeat offender rate over the long term.
Now, Cleotha Abstin's father has been in and out of prison and was behind bars when Abstin first entered the system himself. Cleotha Henderson is currently serving a 40-year sentence for second-degree murder and is scheduled for release in 2044.
Damn. like father, like son, and his pop gonna be out. His pop gonna be out in 22 years, and we gonna get to see what he do. And you know, his son is still gonna be locked up. That's wild.
Now tonight at 10, I'll have what the new DA told me about strides he hopes to make in juvenile court to stop the cycle. For the investigators, I'm Jessica Jaglois, Action News 5.
Cleotha Henderson is due in court again tomorrow morning, as we've said, to face a judge for his murder charge. Action News 5 will be there, and we will keep you posted with live updates on this developing story.
New tonight, Tennessee representatives are demanding action, wondering why a man with dozens of violations in prison was released early. We're talking about Cleotha Henderson. Prison records show Henderson committed 20 crimes and received 53 violations while behind bars.
Wow, so he did not stop his criminal record once he got locked up. He started racking up charges in prison. And see, this is the issue. They knew for a fact when they released this man, he was not rehabilitated. They knew he was going to be back up in that facility. I mean, they know. The COs know, the wardens know, everybody knows, the nurses know, the on-hand psychologists know, psychiatrists, whatever you want. They all know that this guy is not ready to be back out on the streets, but that's that good old racist criminal justice system for you.
Despite the infractions, he was released from prison 4 years early. Now a state rep is saying inaction at the state level might be to blame for what happened after Henderson was released early. He is accused of kidnapping and killing a young Memphis mother and raping another woman. He was never arrested for the rape because results for the sexual assault kit didn't come back until nearly a year after it happened.
Wow.
I'm here on the corner of MLK and Frederick Douglass, where a shooting just took place. And as you can see, it's a pretty rough area. So I'm basically risking my life reporting on this madness. So make sure you do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Like the video, hell, share the video. And make sure you go ahead and leave a comment down in the comments section to continue the discussion on how we can find solutions to all this son violence in the streets. I'm Quavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia, BGZM News 17.
Records show the man accused of kidnapping and killing a Memphis mother committed 20 crimes while behind bars. Our sister station in Memphis obtained those prison records, and despite that, Cleotha Henderson was released from prison early in 2020. Now he's accused of killing Eliza Fletcher and raping another woman. WSMV's Joylyn Bukovac explains why some Tennessee state leaders are now pushing for change.
Now they're pushing for change. And see what I mean? It's tough to say this. It really is. It's really tough to say this, but there's no way that this is obviously a horrible thing, but sister's been getting laid out in Memphis all year. If you don't believe me, just go back and cover it. We had young, black kids getting X'd out as well. So now that you have this glider woman being kidnapped, potentially raped, and X'd out, then now they're saying we need change. Now, is this woman the sacrifice that is needed to get the community, specifically Memphis, in check? Because her grandfather, I believe, is a billionaire, so he is probably talking to politicians, and he's like, all right, they touch my granddaughter. It's time to get these fools up out of here. It's time to get them up out of here. So could she be the martyr? Could she be the sacrifice to fix the community? Only time will tell.
Months before Henderson was released,
She go,
he pleaded guilty to intentionally exposing himself to his caseworker. The punishment he got for that was 5 days in isolation and a $4 fine. Cleotha Henderson racked up 53 violations while behind bars. 19 of them were for indecent exposure in the food hall, the yard, and in front of female guards.
wow, this guy is just, I mean, he's a sexual sadist. It sounds like, and I'm not diagnosing anybody, but just from my own understanding of what the term means, obviously narcissistic traits, sexual sadism, exposing himself, lewd acts to random female CEOs and the women that he encounters, and then obviously what he's doing on the streets, graping people and stuff. God, I mean, this guy was a menace. It's crazy that they let him out after he continually offended in prison. They should have threw more time on. They should have threw more time on his sentence, y'all.
When one supervisor asked Henderson why he did it, he said he couldn't help it. A state representative.
I mean, he said he couldn't help it. He admitted that he's done. He's broken. It's OV. This guy can't help but give in to every urge that he has. Like, he has the urge to grape, he's gonna go do it. He has the urge to kill, he's gonna go do that.
Says inaction at the state level might be to blame for what happened after Henderson was released from prison back in 2020.
They're coming into state custody, right? And we're warehousing them, and you know, and we're punishing them, I guess, but they're going to come out at some point. What's happening in between that time when they're behind that wall?
I ain't gonna lie, but that hat don't match the suit. I don't know what the hell he thought he was doing.
Antonio Parkinson wants the state's correction rehab strategy to be reviewed. A commissioner of Tennessee's correction department told lawmakers the department's disciplinary process works most of the time, but she would review how it's applied to serial offenders. Before Henderson served 20 years in prison, he was in and out of juvenile detention 16 times. Dreeland Bukovac, WSMV4.
Pleading guilty to strong armed robbery, possession of a deadly weapon, sexual misconduct, and multiple counts of indecent exposure generally comes with jail time. But Joe, the question tonight, what happens when those crimes are committed by somebody already behind bars?
In the case of the man accused of kidnapping and then killing Memphis mom Eliza Fletcher, very little. And tonight we're asking why. Here's Action News 5 investigator Jessica Jaglois joining us now live in the studio. Jessica?
Well, Joe and Joy, Cleotha Henderson racked up more than 50 violations behind bars, and a warning to you at home, the details are graphic. Nearly half of the violations were for indecent exposure that at one point Henderson confessed he couldn't help, yet he still got out of prison early and now stands accused of raping one woman and kidnapping and murdering another.
Wow.
Mere months before Cleotha Henderson was released from prison, disciplinary records obtained by the Action News 5 investigators show he pleaded guilty to intentionally exposing himself to his caseworker. His punishment? 5 days in isolation and a $4 fine.
Yeah, that $4 fine is not enough. $4 fine is not enough. I mean, and he probably got folks putting money on his books too. Nah, B. Nah, you gotta, I don't know, you gotta do something else. Add some time, add 4 years. How about that?
Everything we do has an impact on people's lives. Our inactions have an even deeper impact on people's lives.
Tennessee State Representative Antonio Parkinson says inaction at the state level is to blame for where Cleotha Henderson stands today. As a member of a newly formed legislative committee, Parkinson wants an in-depth review of the state's corrections rehabilitation strategy.
They're coming into state custody, right? And we're warehousing them, and you know, and we're punishing them, I guess, but they're going to come out at some point. What's happening in between that time when they're behind that wall?
While Henderson was behind that wall, he racked up 53 violations in prison. 19 were for indecent exposure in the chow hall, in the yard, and in front of female guards.
53. I mean, he should have got 53 more years. They said indecent exposure in the chow hall, on recreation yard, while telling me how beautiful I was. So my man was saying she was so beautiful that he just whipped his joint out and just started beating his meat, bruh. So not only is this dude, you know, sick and twisted, he's also, let's not forget, he's part of the LGBT community. Why did he love prison so much? Because he could smash boys in there with no judgment.
In front of female guards. When a supervisor once asked why Henderson did what he did, he said he couldn't help it. His other offenses include sexual misconduct, threatening an employee, strong-armed robbery, drug possession, and possession of a deadly weapon.
Damn.
During a committee meeting Wednesday night, TDOC Commissioner Lisa Helton told lawmakers the department's disciplinary process works most of the time, but she would review how it's applied to serial offenders.
I would never say that we shouldn't take an opportunity to relook at something and see what flexibility is.
But
relook at something, bruh, y'all gotta change that. That ain't enough. If the dude is still committing crimes in prison, if not 4 years, throw 4 months on that mug, please. Something. God dang, that's wild to me.
Responsibility doesn't lie with TDOC alone. Henderson was in and out of juvenile detention 16 times before he kidnapped a former attorney and served 20 years in prison. Less than 11 months after his release, a woman accused him of rape. Her newly filed lawsuit blames a rape kit backlog and negligence as the reasons why Henderson wasn't arrested at the time and now stands accused of kidnapping and murdering Eliza Fletcher.
There have been failures at so many different points throughout his history with so many different agencies. People are angry and scared. Can you understand that?
Oh, I completely understand that. But ultimately, the buck stops with the state of Tennessee. And the state of Tennessee is where the accountability needs to be held.
Okay, just displace the blame. And I get it, but they're just gonna hand the blame to this department, that department, so that they can make it seem like it's nobody's fault. It's just the overall state, and you can't really pin that on one person.
But once they are in the state custody, that's where the bulk of the actions should have taken place. Plain and simple.
Now, Parkinson also wants to hold TDOC accountable for its recidivism rate. More than 40% of inmates released go back into the system, according to the state's most recent numbers available. And while a district attorney can charge inmates for infractions they commit behind bars, prosecutors in the 3 jurisdictions where Henderson served time never did. For the investigators, I'm Jessica Jaglois.
Gang violence and other kind of violence. So it is what it is.